inside every dad, calling him to lead. Society, vices, inner demons, negative thoughts try to dampen and drown out that voice, but it never goes away. Your wife feels it, your children feel it, and your heart and soul feel it too. It's the voice that starts off as a whisper, but then becomes a calling to be the tip of the spear for your family, a calling to play all out and lead by example for your children, a calling to build a legacy that will go on for generations, a calling to be the warrior dad you were born to be. Dads, our children need us now more than ever to be that beacon of hope, courage, positivity, and strength. It's time to rise as warrior dads together as a brotherhood. If you felt that twinge in your soul, it's time for the Warrior Dad Experience. Welcome to the show. I am excited to have guest Cory Jenks on the show. Cory, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Where's the brick wall that can go run through right now? That is an inspiring intro, and I have goosebumps on my arm. Let's do this.
Love it. Love the energy. So always like to start on the show. Your dad game, dad situation. What's the dynamic in the Jenks household? What does it look like?
It looks like, I think if someone opened a fire hydrant and it's a summer day and the water's pouring out. So we got one guy that just turned 6, a little fella that's almost 4, and a baby girl that is 10 months old. So it is busy. It is fun, but it's busy.
Yeah. You got a lot going on. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know you got a new book coming up. I know we're coming out. I know we're going to pull some threads on different things related to being a dad.
Yeah. So in addition to being a dad, I do a lot of different things, and it often doesn't make sense, but I think that the general umbrella is I'm sort of an unconventional person. So I'm a pharmacist by trade. I'm a trained improv comedian. I'm a professional speaker and a now soon to be 2-time author. So I have a book on fatherhood coming out on Mother's Day, because what better gift to give mom than to be a better dad? So I've been doing the pharmacy thing for about 13 years, comedy for 10 years, and then speaking for 5. And I wrote my first book in 2022 over my shoulder here, Permission to Care, Building a Healthcare Culture That Thrives in Chaos. So I don't watch a lot of Netflix. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I got a lot of ideas I like to write about, and just kind of break conventions of what you think a dad should be, a human should be, a pharmacist should be, all the above there.
Gotcha. And I mean, pharmacy and being an improv comedian kind of feel like they're both ends of the spectrum, kind of opposites. How did that happen?
Well, I always loved comedy, and I went to pharmacy school, and in college I went to the University of South Carolina, and there was an improv group there, and I went and saw a show. I was blown away. So naturally I didn't do any of it because I was a dutiful pharmacy student, but grew up on a steady diet of The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live. And so I always loved comedy, and then finished my pharmacy residency in 2012, took an improv class and just loved it. And I had all this free time that wasn't in school anymore. And from there, I'm in Tucson, Arizona. So we had a little theater that was starting up, and I guess took classes, ended up performing, teaching, coaching, running our comedy school. And along the way, what you think is a seemingly unrelated skill, improv comedy, really transformed my career as a pharmacist. It taught me to listen, live in the moment, and if we're talking dad stuff here, taught me to be adaptable, because that's all improvisation is just living in the moment and adapting to what's happening, which is pretty much being a dad.
Yeah, for sure. And I know today's topic was, hey, balancing being a dad, which is the most important job we have, with not taking yourself too seriously. What does that mean to you? I love giving actionable strategies to dads on the podcast. So 1, what does it mean to you? And then 2, hey, what's a couple things that dads can do to, hey, maybe lighten the load or the burden that they feel, or that self-doubt?
Yeah, well, I opened my book talking about this, what's at stake as a father. And essentially it's just society collapsing. So no pressure, right? It's the big, if we had great dads all over the place, we wouldn't need your amazing podcast, which I'm glad that you're here doing this and giving dads that ability and that structure, that power, that to be that warrior dad. But society collapses if we fail. So that's heavy. That's big stuff. These little human beings rely on you, heavy stuff. And if you sit in that heaviness and seriousness all the time, it'll eat you from the inside. And I know this from pharmacy. When I was in, healthcare is a heavy world that you live in. And once I started applying these sort of skills of improvisation, I kind of turned it all into a game, which is, if you're being a dad, great. Like strategy one, turn everything into a game with your kids.
Okay.
If kids respond well to, how long does it take you to tie your shoes? I'll time you. We have siblings. You might disagree on the making them compete with each other, but who can buckle your seatbelt faster? Like turn that thing into a game. Another thing I touch about in my book is picking your hills to die on. You only have so much capital with your kids to ask them to do things in the broad scope of being a parent, that our family will help watch the kids, and what are our biggest things. And if we care about every little thing, we're going to burn ourselves out. We're going to burn the people we care about out. So for us, it is nutrition. I'm a pharmacist. My wife's a nurse practitioner, and we see the consequences of poor nutrition every day in our adults and younger people. Mm-hmm. So that was a big thing for us. Was limiting screen time as much as possible. And really, those were the two big ones. And then other influences from, friends, family, making sure they're around good people. So for us, that means if at the table, they're squirming, they're walking around, but they're still eating what we want them to eat, we don't care. If they're leave the room a little bit messy, we don't let it get total chaos, but they're being creative and playing instead of sitting on a tablet, that's a win. For every parent, you're going to pick your own hills to die on. We know friends that have bedtime routines, their number one thing. For me, it's like, my kids wanted to go hit baseballs last night at 7:00. I've been waiting 37 years for someone to ask me to go play baseball at 7 p.m. We're doing this, right? So, and it turns into something that's more fun, right? We're turning it into, we're enjoying that experience as much as you can in the fire hose era that we're in. So, not taking ourselves too seriously, picking the hills to die on, and then trying to turn everything into a game, and instead of seeing this as like a battle with your, it's just for me, it's an improv game of, here's the moment, adapt, overcome. Here comes the next thing. It's like a parental whack-a-mole is how I put it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that concept of turning everything into a game, because kids, I think, inherently are kind of competitive, and hey, can you do this that quickly and let me time you and count down from a timer? Mm-hmm. Dads, if you're struggling getting buy-in for your kids to actually do things, just what Cory said was brilliant, right? Turn that lens into a game rather than telling them. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you get buy-in and they do it. And I would say, sibling competition, man, not everybody gets a trophy in life. And I can't stand how that has made its way into youth sports, that everybody gets a trophy, all these things, because then everybody thinks they get something for no matter what place they finish in. Yeah. I love the idea of, hey, let's compete as siblings and build that competition muscle, because let's not beat around the bush. Life is a competition. You're going to compete in every area of life, whether it's for the girl, for the boy, for the job, whatever it is. Yeah. So I definitely like, that idea of making it a game. Do you have any other examples? I know you mentioned seatbelt, tie your shoes, any other things that pop up top of mind of making it like a game?
Well, I think that with making it all a game, it's also not being so strict with like the rules. Like when you're literally playing a game, not being so strict with the rules. Like the kids will get out a board game, or we'll be playing baseball or basketball, and we know the rules. You got to dribble, you got to pass, and if they're traveling or whatever. But if they're having fun, like, and I see that, I'm not here to call my parents, but like they're very like literal people, and I got that left brain from them. Okay. Like, well, when you play this, you're supposed to do that. I'm like, but they're 4. They don't understand the concept of that. They're playing a game. They're having fun. It's simple. It's a good time. Don't mess this flow up. Because I think, one of the other things I really talk about in the book is this idea, you can't try to like make memories. You just make memories. Like let things happen. So I'll give an example of the way that we can take things less seriously and laugh at the absurdity, because that's all comedy really is. As a comedian, we just highlight the absurdities of life. 2 years ago, we take my kids, who were then 2 and 4, no baby yet, my parents, to Yellowstone. It's a week-long trip. We're hiking, we're doing this, we're doing that. It's a lot. As a parent now, I appreciate how much work a vacation is, because it's not really a vacation. Very true. So after 7 days of flying, driving all over the place, we get home and we asked my 4-year-old, what was your favorite part of our trip to Yellowstone? And he says, Sonic. I was like, what? Well, he watched like Sonic on, the tablet is okay for us on an airplane. He watched Sonic on the flight home, and that's all he remembered and all he cared about. I literally dragged him all around Yellowstone, and that's what it was for him. Like, I can't make him appreciate it. It will someday maybe be an appreciation. And so trying to force our memories and force our experiences on our kids instead of just letting it be what it will be for them and laughing when they say the favorite part of our very long, expensive trip was a cartoon, so be it. I had fun. So
Yep.
I just
Yep.
laugh at that absurdity and move on.
Yeah. No, I love the piece you said. Hey, make it a game. And then when they're really young, hey, rules kind of don't really matter. It's about them enjoying it. And
Yeah.
a memory popped in to my head, Corey, where I think my youngest son Carter was maybe 4 or 5 at the time, and was at the local YMCA. They had a basketball, league, and they were on teams, and the clock was winding down, and he got a rebound, and he sprinted down the rest of the court, didn't dribble, shot it
Mhm.
from half court, and he made it, and the crowd went crazy. Now, if the referee had stopped it,
Mhm.
it would have ruined that moment and that experience that we still to this day
Yeah.
call on, right? So I love that kind of flexibility, adaptability of, hey, playing a game, but rules don't have to be so strict when they're so young, because they don't
Mhm.
they don't even comprehend it from that perspective.
Yeah, it's easy to forget when you're a kid. Like there's no frame of the world. Like you have your little world as a 4 or 5 or 6 year old, and this is your world versus we've been on this planet. I'm 37, so we have all of this context for how things fit, and they don't. And so when their whole world is they go to school or they're at home or their favorite fork gets taken by their brother, so they stab them, which happened the other day. First, didn't draw blood. I was actually a little disappointed. If you're going to stab your brother, like get some blood going there, make it a story worthy of stitches. But like that's their world. And so if we're trying to project like our bigger picture on them, I don't think they have that ability yet. And this is my book is geared towards people with ages 5 to thinking about having kids and under. That
Okay.
I've never had a teenager, so if I wrote a book about teenagers, it would be a purely academic exercise, and that would not be from a place of experience. So this is real world stuff that I observed and was like, I wish I had known that. Well, maybe
Yep.
someone else can know that.
There you go. Love it. And then the impact of making things a game and finding yourself in that as a dad,
Mhm.
playing the game and enjoying it. I mean, the downstream benefits, the impact of that. How has it been for you? And when you do it, I know how it is for me, but interested to hear your slant.
Oh, I miss playing. Adults don't play.
Yep.
I mean, that's the beauty of being an improviser is it's like adult play, but you get down, you start playing imagination with your kids, and you have to turn your literal mind off because
Mhm.
they see things that we don't. And I think from a problem solving perspective, it's a great way to approach problem solving. Is we have our experience and we rely so much on our rigid adult experience. And don't get me wrong, if I need a surgery on my appendix, I want a surgeon who has experience operating on me.
Right.
But when we have these complex or weird problems to solve, it's amazing. When I talked to my son, like we were doing, he was working on his colors, and so we asked him, "How do you make green?" And we are expecting him to say blue and yellow, and he said verde because he's also been learning Spanish. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
there's more than one path to this answer, and my stupid literal brain was stuck on colors, and he's thinking in a second language. I mean, he's not that smart, but like he's been working on the basics of colors. So when we get to play, I think as a dad, it helps our own creativity. Like think of the problems you have to solve at work. Think of the problems you have to solve with your marriage, your mortgage, your bills, your hobbies, all of these things. If you allow yourself to live in the moment in the world with your kids and play, I think that actually there's science that shows it improves your neuroplasticity when you play. So you're going to be more, buzzwordy, use the buzzword resilient to whatever's going on. And when we give our kids rigid structure versus letting them play, I think we have an epidemic of my millennial generation that can't handle things because we're not resilient. Well,
Yep.
we got Lego kits instead of plain Legos. We got
Mm.
play dates for us instead of free play. We had everything kind of laid out for us, and which out of good intentions, but then we have to struggle with creativity and problem solving. But if you let your kids kind of like figure it out, they'll figure it out, and you can learn and play with them too.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we don't get a lot of snow up in the Northeast. I'm outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but
Okay.
I remember when we did, when the kids were younger,
Hmm.
and even a couple of years ago. I mean, if there's the ability to have a snowball fight, I'm out there with them and having a
Yeah.
snowball fight. And
Hmm.
I would also say for dads listening, playing with your kids is a tremendous way to recharge your batteries.
Yes.
It's intentional. You're not in front of a screen. You will start to just almost feel like a kid again, and
Hmm.
it will recharge that energy tank and recharge your batteries for sure. So I love that piece. You talked about picking your hills to die on.
Hmm.
I'm a dad. I don't even know what hill to pick,
Yeah.
right? There's so much being thrown at me. I'm drinking through the fire hose. There's all
Mhm.
these things, all these expectations. I see it everywhere. How would a dad go about, hey, man, I want to pick one or two. Obviously, a conversation with the wife, figuring out to be aligned. But what would be your process, or what was your process with you and your wife to say, hey, these are the hills we want to die on, and really the
Mhm.
battles we want to fight?
I think for us it was multifold. One was looking at our experience with other kids that we knew from our family, our friends, and seeing what seemed to work for them, what didn't work. To be quite honest, what behaviors like we wouldn't want to tolerate, what behaviors we'd be okay with. Listing things out, it's boring, but write a list of everything that you think is going to be important to you. And as a new parent, if you've never had a kid, prepare to have like a 2 pages of stuff. It's food, diapers, diaper
Mhm.
warmer, and there's so much crap you don't really need, but you don't need to get into that. But I think we drew on our experience working in healthcare and seeing what the negative effects of nutrition, like the number one, like everyone has to eat, like it starts there. And I'm a pharmacist. My unconventional practice is getting people off medicines. That's my primary focus with managing their diabetes and obesity. And I see the sort of conditioning to certain flavors that kids get at a very young age, and
Mhm.
how it creates a lifetime of struggle for people who are craving sweet, salty, sugary garbage food, essentially. And so we made, yeah, I'll outline it in the book, but basically before one, they didn't even get fruit. We didn't want them having any desire for sweet. At one, they got fruit. At two, they got dark chocolate. And at that point, hopefully they've developed enough of a sense of eating real food and taste that, now that they're 3, 4, 5, 6, we don't want to give them an eating disorder. So when they're at a
Mhm.
birthday party, we're like, yep, you can have the cupcake. And it's amazing that they'll eat one and stop, whereas my wife and I cannot do that. So we just don't. So that was a big one for us. And number two was we decided we chose screens and TV, limiting that as much as possible, just because I don't see the upside to a
Mhm.
young child getting that. I really like, how much are they? You could lie to yourself and say that it's an educational show or an educational app on your iPad. It's all marketing to make you feel better as a parent, like giving your kid this. And to the dads listening who are super slammed and super busy, like like our kids get to watch some shows. They get to like the tablet we do reserve for like haircuts and airplanes. We're pretty good about that.
Mhm.
But we just look around at other people at the grocery store or just in public, and their kids are glued to a phone and they're missing the world. And
Yep.
so I think Sam Harris said that the greatest gift you can give your kid is an attention span. And
Mhm.
that really directed our desire to reduce the screens, and then also reduce like very loud, flashy toys that do one thing, and instead focus on blocks and Legos and things like that.
Gotcha. Have you ever watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
Sure have.
Oof.
It's every documentary is got an agenda, so I'm sure
Mhm.
that there are counter arguments to counter arguments,
Mhm.
but all I need to know is that the tech people don't let their kids use their own tech. All right,
Right. Right.
I could watch 0 more minutes of that, and that tells me everything I need to know. And so I just don't see the upside to having kids on there now. As they get older and their friends are on it, that'll
Mhm.
be a new battle. That'll be
Yep.
volume two of my of my book. But
That's the battle I face, right? With
yeah,
teenagers. Yep.
it's hard when their peers are all doing it, but I
Mhm.
think we have phenomenal neighbors, and one's got teenagers from 14 to 20, I guess 20 is not a teenager, and they're just the most polite, helpful 4 kids I've ever met. And I asked the mom, "What'd you do?" And she said, "Cocoon them till they're about 13, and at that point they have enough agency to sort of see the absurdity of people living in a phone."
Mhm.
And like even their sons are like, "Yeah, it's dumb. We're playing sports. We don't have time for that crap." I'm like, can you just transfer that to my kids? That's all
Mhm.
I could ask for. So, and my kids are 6 and under. In 10 years, who knows what the next crisis of a parent will be?
Yep.
So spending too much time worrying about it now is probably not worthwhile, because who knows what it'll be like in a decade. But for now, when they're young and we can control them and their friends, that's our hills.
Gotcha. Yeah, nutrition is such a huge component, right? If you're putting junk into the system, especially of a growing kid, my youngest son Carter has Crohn's disease. It's in
Oh
in
yeah,
remission, but that took us down that rabbit hole of eating cleaner because we needed to do it for his health, and
yeah,
it's had a significant impact. And luckily, my guys at 15 and 14, when we go out for pizza, it's water, it's not a soda, because
yeah.
they know the amount of sugar that's in a soda, and
Hmm.
that's low hanging fruit. So you're drinking through the fire hose
Yeah.
right now. What can you share with that experience to other dads that might be in that same position?
Yeah.
And what could you give them?
Well, I think the greatest relief I get is when I talk to someone like yourself who's been through the like basically the toddler baby years. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to pretend the teen years won't be difficult, or every era has its challenge, but right now like there's still like 2 to 3 butts to wipe. My 6-year-old needed help today. Like I'm not wishing my life away, but if I never wipe another butt again after my baby is grown, like and can wipe herself, I will not complain. So I think that talking to other dads and getting their perspective and
Mhm.
making sure that when you say, I feel like I can't get anything done, I'm tired at the end of the day. Like I literally fell asleep like on the floor of our living room the other night. I was just wiped. And you talk to another dad who's like, oh yeah, it's tough, or who's been there. Like we have neighbors with 3 kids that are, a season beyond us, and
Right.
they offer to watch our kids because they said we know it's hard. So acknowledging that it's hard. I think that if if you're not tired, I don't think you're doing it right. It just
Okay.
means that you're sort of like farming them off to the TV, to others, to like let whatever it is raise them. So if you're feeling tired, like you got nothing in the tank at the end of the day, you're doing your job, and that's about all you can do. And then gosh, like I mean, I sound like a hypocrite. Like I've written 2 books. I speak. I travel to do that. I work as a pharmacist part time, so I have days like today. I can record this and watch the kids on Thursdays, so I get more time with them. But you're just gonna have to accept you're not getting as much done.
Yep.
That's like I tell people, like you get kids, you get one thing a day, maybe pick it. Pick the one most important non-kid thing that you want to get done that day, and if you get that done, it's a win. And as someone who's a type A pharmacist that likes to check the boxes and things off, that was probably one of the hardest things to accept. Was like I used to get so much done, and now I don't. So I I wish I could give you the magic pill as a pharmacist here, pharmacist joke, to say if you do this, it'll be easy, but it's not, and it won't be. And your challenges will be different than my challenges. And I think the communication with other dads is helped me a ton. I got a
Mhm.
group of 4 or 5 dads on our block, all in the
Nice.
same season.
Mhm.
And it's so funny when like my kid does something and I'm like, maybe I'll yell or raise my voice, and they're just like, oh gosh, Tommy does the same thing. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not a bad dad. It's just this kids these age do that.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part of being a new dad. You just don't know what to expect.
Right. Right. And I always like to say, hey, you're in a season, right? Right now you're in that season. I will
Mhm.
tell you, being on the opposite end with teenagers,
Mhm.
that season when they were younger went by so quick that now I'm at 14 and 15. I'm like, how did I get to 14 and 15? So,
Yeah.
that's one thing I always say is, hey, I know it's challenging, difficult, you're exhausted,
Mhm.
but soak up those micro moments, because before you know, it's they're going to be to where my kiddos are. So you mentioned, as we talked behind the scenes before the podcast, like this concept of letting go of
Mhm.
control. What does that mean to you, and how does it apply to dads?
Well, I think that when you don't have kids, you have for me, like I had a life plan. I go to pharmacy school, I get the job. I wasn't expecting to meet the woman of my dreams, get married, but hey, it happened. I'll take that. And so you have so much, you control so much, your time, your money,
Mhm.
what you want to do. Hey, let's go to a movie on Tuesday. Okay, there's nothing holding us back. And now you have this little human or multiple little humans that are unpredictable, irrational, do what they want, that you're trying to mold and shape, but not be overbearing. And you just have to accept that you have plans to go to the gym in the morning, and your kid wakes up he wet the bed, and now he's up at 5:30 and he's up.
Mhm.
And let go of that resent. Like I'll be real, like I'm not proud of it, but I feel like if any dad would be lying if they didn't at some point resent their kid in a moment when they wanted to do something. Like I was supposed to go to Florida for a conference this winter. My kids got hand, foot, and mouth. And in the moment, I was like, this sucks. I'm upset.
Mhm.
Zoom out. It's not something serious. It's not something chronic. They're going to get better. But in the moment, you're just so frustrated. Like all I wanted was this thing. Or like our 10-year anniversary was in January, and all we wanted to do was go for a hike and buy some pants. Like literally, that was our big plan. And our baby got sick,
Right.
and like because we're not going for a hike. And instead of being upset, I got to walk around the block with her and kind of help her cool off because she had a fever. And we went out to dinner with her, and that was our anniversary. That's what it was.
Mm.
And I think that managing expectations as a dad is something that I've had to learn to do,
Mhm.
and letting go of this idea that you have any semblance of control, especially in a micromanaging way. And again, it goes to those hills to die on. Like, you can't control if they're going to take longer to get ready for school. So you got to start that process earlier.
Right.
You can't control that one day they love your hamburgers you cook for them, and the next day they hate them. So you better cook food that you like too, right? And you can't resent them. You want to, and sometimes you just go a little crazy with it. But it's just the experience of this little human that you made, that you chose to make. At least, I mean, we chose to. I know how it works with biology, right? That you're responsible for, and it's not their fault you made them. So you better channel some of that frustration in a constructive way. And I will say, with each subsequent kid, it's gotten easier with acceptance. And as someone who wasn't around young kids before them, I just learned with each one. And my poor oldest has got the brunt of my failures, and my baby girl is probably going to be like, "Dad was super chill. I don't know what you're talking about, Jake." But yeah, letting go of that ability to have that micromanaging control with your kids.
Gotcha. And I love the concept. You mentioned it earlier, just adaptability, right? Like, or option, like, you got to be able to be adaptable and be flexible. And if you can have that mindset of, hey, no matter what comes my way, I'm going to adapt. And at the end of the day, I'm still going to smile, because for your case, you got 3 beautiful kids. I've got 2 amazing sons. Hey, that at the end of the day is all that matters, because we chose to be dads. They didn't get the chance to choose us. So we got to show up as the best version of us for sure. Closing remarks, anything else you got, maybe about the book? What can dads find and really learn through the book? Maybe a couple top of mind things that you're thinking about, and then where can they find you?
Yeah, so my book, as a reminder, is called "I Guess I'm a Dad Now: A Humorous Handbook for Newish Dads Who Don't Want to Suck." And so it really is designed as a handbook. You can turn to any page and get a tip, from the pre-contemplation of why you should even have kids, or if you should have kids, to what to expect in that first year, which was like a huge shock for me, of like, oh, it's really just about mom at this point, because what do I do with myself? I'm just twiddling my thumb. So how can you support mom? And then as they start getting to a little bit more interactive, fun age where you're playing games, and how do you navigate that? Navigating youth sports, how to feed them. I have a lot of nutrition stuff, a lot of stuff about navigating youth sports, traveling, just a lot of like in the field stuff that you can do. And it's written from a comedian, or at least I'd like to think of myself as that. So it's going to be funny. And I get a lot of dad books are really heavy and serious, and it's a serious topic again, but you're going to laugh, you're going to enjoy it. And that way you're going to remember it and want to read it, and then hopefully tell your friends about it so they buy it too. But that's just, that's my goal there. So if you get that, it's coming out on Mother's Day. So what better gift to give your mom than to be a better dad? And so you can find it on Amazon, that little tiny boutique bookstore on the internet there. And for your listeners, you can see if you're watching this, you can see my website there, CoryJenks.com. And it's CORY. My parents didn't buy the vowel. They were cheap. So no E in Cory. And so I got some great pre-order bonuses for anyone who pre-orders it. And honestly, I'm going to run this thing through probably like the summer, because dads are busy. And if you don't have a chance to pre-order it, I got your back, Dad. So, but you're going to get some extra recipes. I got recipes in the book. You're going to get some extra recipes. You're going to get my workout. You're going to get some travel tips. You're going to get some dad gear, just some little things to make life easier as a dad. And I got different tiers. Let's just make it simple. If you email me and say, I heard you on the Warrior Dad podcast, and you buy one book, I'll give you the 5-book one on the house, because I want dads to be awesome and not suck so much like me. I go back and read my own book, because sometimes we all need a reminder.
There you go. Love it, Cory. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And thanks for doing what you're doing. It's an important job, and my gosh, I'm still pumped from that intro. So
I love it. I love it. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate listening. Appreciate you watching. Dare to be uncommon. Love, lead, legacy. Create a legendary day. I'll talk to you soon.